Welcome back to the Prez Podcast. Unfortunately, it's just me this week, but I'm here to give you my predictions and picks for the rest of the weekend. And we'll discuss first the Chiefs winning their 16th straight over the lowly Denver Broncos. Now, if you're a Broncos fan, it's rough. Season was already rough. This is just another kick in the mud. Just unfortunate circumstances for you. There's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. Obviously, the trade for Russell Wilson last year, thought things would be different, didn't work out. But hey, you know what? Sean Payton's going to come in. He's going to change things. He's going to find a way to work with Russ. And all you're finding out is that maybe these two entities, Russ and Sean, are just too old. Or they're just not a good relationship. Or your roster isn't good. There's a lot of things that you could look at in Denver. A lot of rumors about fire sales. We heard they were going to try to trade Frank Clark. Couldn't find a trade partner, so they just released him. Maybe they're going to trade Judy, maybe Garrett Bowles. Obviously, you can't trade Russell Wilson and has got a contract, but what are you going to do? Well, Russ is north of 34. Sean Payton is in his second coaching stint, obviously. You paid Russ $50 million a year, paying Payton the richest NFL coaching contract, and you're 1-4. So, what do you do? What do you do? I don't know what the answer is. I just know it's not going to be an easy one. You just got to pick your horse. I have a feeling that they're going to pick Payton, but that leaves them really contract strapped. No one's going to take that Russ contract. Seattle knew he was over the hill a long time ago. They knew that he wasn't the same quarterback when he didn't want to be mobile. Now, don't get me wrong. He lost some weight this year, and he is playing a little bit better, but he's just not a world beater. He needs a big, bad roster around him to make him look good like he had in Seattle. And it's unfortunate, Broncos fans. For the Chiefs, this is usual. They're 5-1. Division race is over. AFC West is over. I'm sorry. Raiders aren't catching them. Chargers aren't catching them. It's over. And it's boring. And they're going to win another West title. But they don't care. The Chiefs don't care. They're going to keep winning. They're going to keep winning. They're going to get to playoffs, and they're going to see what happens. And eventually, by then, I think they'll have their receiver situation figured out. But for right now, it's a little troublesome. But their defense is playing really, really well. And they can run the football, too. So they can beat you in different ways this year. And they're showing that. Once Patrick Mahomes and those receivers really start connecting, watch out. It's a long season, folks. Same team you are in September and October. Usually not who you are in December, in January. So we'll see how that turns out. They'll be fighting for a top seed, obviously, but the AFC West divisional race is over. All right, let's get into our 5 key matchups of the week. We're going to start off with New Orleans at Houston. Now, I never thought this would be an exciting matchup going in to the season. I thought Houston was going to really struggle, but C.J. Stroud has exceeded expectations, obviously, and played at a really, really good level and helped them win a couple games. And for the Saints, they have struggled on offense, but their defense is carrying them. Obviously, they had a great game against the Patriots. That may be more the Patriots imploding last week or not, but the Saints defense has played well week in and week out, and they're going to provide a real test for C.J. Stroud in Houston. And in fact, I think his streak of not throwing an interception to start his career is going to end this week. I think maybe it's a tip ball. Maybe Marshawn Lattimore gets him. But we'll see. But I think C.J. Stroud's pick streak ends, and I think the Saints will take this one. From a defensive battle, I think Kamara will do enough offensively, and they'll score enough points. Maybe Saints 24-17. Next up, Seattle going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati gets back on the winning track with a road win in Arizona. Jamar Chase goes off for 3 touchdowns, 180 yards, and has a phenomenal game. And that connection needed to happen. Obviously, came out in the press, says, I'm always open. But he's going to have a tough matchup this week going against 2 young corners and Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. Even though Devin will be playing mostly slot, so I don't know how much they'll be matched up one-on-one, but I'm sure we'll see it a little bit. The key for this game, though, will Seattle's pass rush be able to hound Joe Burrow? His mobility looked better. His calf is coming back. He was able to move in the pocket, create some space, get some throws downfield. And then for Seattle offense, how healthy are they? Their offensive line back to the way it was going to be. Um, but I'm gonna look at one stat for making my pick in this game. Coming off a bye, Carroll had been 7-4 until the last 3 years. He's been 0-3, two of those on the road. Even though you had a bye week, still going to that Eastern time zone early. Seattle's kind of figured out a way to be better in those early games, but I think Cincinnati pulls this one out. Really close game. Give me Cincinnati 24-21. Next up, Colts against Jacksonville. Battle for first place in the South Division. Colts are going to be out with Anthony Richardson for a while. Has an AC joint sprain, going to be on IR, so it's going to be Gardner Minshew time, and a great backup to have for a rookie. So the Colts look like they're being well coached, have a good game plan, able to run the ball. Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor coming back and work himself back on the fold. They're going to be able to run the football. Well, the problem is that's Jacksonville's strength. They have a good run defense, and they've been stopping the run at a good round. So it's really going to rely on Garner to throw the football. I think Jacksonville's trying to figure it out. Hopefully, they can treat this like a London game, like they had really good success for back-to-back weeks in London with good wins. But I think they will, and I think Lawrence is going to continue to improve, and this team's going to continue to improve. So I got Jacksonville win this one, 31-20. Next up, we got the 4-1 Detroit Lions going to Tampa Bay to face the first place Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, it's been a nice little story seeing Baker Mayfield have a little bit of a resurgence, kind of off the radar a little bit. But remember, this is a good roster. There's good players there. Obviously, they're good receivers and a decent offensive line with Tristan Wirfs, a left tackle. Their defense is playing well, and they're going to be competitive in games. The key for this, though, is that the Lions look good, and I like the way they're punishing people, and they're really kind of taking on the personality of their head coach and Dan Campbell. I think this will be a close game, a lower scoring game, but I think Detroit defense, which has been playing better, will make plays. I do think Mike Evans will maybe be able to make plays against that secondary, but I like the Lions to win this one on the road. Give me 28-21 Detroit. Next up, big Monday night game for your Dallas Cowboys. I say your because it's America's team apparently, but not really. I mean, I know a lot of people like watching Dallas, but some of it I think is just people wanting to watch Dallas lose. And this game is a big one for them. After that blowout loss to San Francisco where they got beat 42-10, it's make or break time, really. You lose this game, you're going down to 3-3, and you're not going to catch the Eagles. I know you have 2 games left with them, but you're just not going to catch them. And you're going to start having questioning, is Mike McCarthy the right guy, or is Dak the right guy? There's going to be a lot of question marks, and they need to come out in this game for the Chargers. Again, it's been a history of injuries. Not everybody who's playing, who's not. And I think with Justin Herbert, and Keenan Allen, they're going to put up some points. But I like Dallas in this one in a shootout. Give me the Cowboys. 35-31. I think Dak has a breakout performance. I just don't trust that Charger defense. I know Khalil Mack had 6 sacks in one game, but that was one game. No sacks in all the other ones. It's not really consistent. All right, let's go through the rest of the games and give our picks. Next up, we got Baltimore versus Tennessee in London. No Jacksonville in this team, so hard to predict. But I think the Ravens will bounce back. Maybe a receiver will catch a pass for Lamar in London. Maybe he was just in the wrong country. Anyways, give me Baltimore over Tennessee. I just think their defense will do enough and kind of harass Tannehill. And this is a game that will be more about what Tennessee doesn't do on offense than what Baltimore does on offense. Next up, Carolina at Miami. Oh, poor Bryce Young. There's a lot of weird talk about Bryce Young in the situation drafted. Did Frank Wright actually want C.J. Stroud? There's been some videos released of him talking to C.J. Stroud where it looks like maybe that was the case. We don't know what happened behind closed doors. All I know is Bryce doesn't have an offensive line. He doesn't really have a great setup there. I hope he has some veterans in his corner looking out for him because right now in Carolina it's not looking good. And I'm not sure when they're going to have a chance to win a game. And it's not this week against Miami. Give me Miami by 20. Next up, in a game that I wouldn't expect to only have 2 total victories in it, but we do. We're Minnesota at Chicago, and it's really sad for Justin Jefferson to be out. There's rumors about what we do with Kirk Cousins. There's some teams that could use Kirk. He's a little bit older. His contract's done at the end of the year, and where do we go for here from Minnesota? There's a great quarterback class coming up. You've got some cap issues in Minnesota. You really need to bring some more people on defense. You have some young stars, and you got to pay Justin Jefferson. I know he just went on IR, but you got to think long term. We're going to have to pay him probably the richest receiver contract in the history of the NFL. That's coming. So what do you do with Kirk? So will be interesting to see the rumor mill. So I really kind of expect Kirk to come out and have a good game against not a great Chicago defense, and I like Minnesota on the road on this one. Next up, Washington at Atlanta. Atlanta got back on the winning streak. Desmond Ridder had his best game as a pro against not a great Houston defense, but it's at home. Desmond Ridder at home versus Desmond Ridder on the road is two different persons. They're two different people. They play two different ways, and I know Commanders are struggling, especially defensively. I know they've got a good front four, but besides that, everything behind it not really great. Slow to make adjustments. I think that they're going to find creative ways to get Bijan on the ball in this game like they usually do, and it's going to be enough. Give me the Falcons over the Commanders. Next up, the best team in the NFL right now, San Francisco goes to Cleveland, and it's going to be a muddy, rainy game, but Deshaun Watson out again. They're starting P.J. Walker. Doesn't matter. I think this game will be a slog fest, but I think San Francisco can slog with the best of them. I think Purdy will make enough plays. I think 49ers win this one 24-7. And next up, we got the Mentor versus the Master, but the Master doesn't look so good anymore. That's New England going to Las Vegas. Now, back when Josh McDaniels was the coach of Denver Broncos, he actually did play against Belichick and beat him in the regular season. But things are a little bit different now. New England has looked horrible the last 2 weeks. Mac Jones has looked horrible. They've lost their two best defensive players. And their offensive line isn't playing well. Max Crosby is going to have a fun day. And I think that they'll be creative. I know Mac Jones is starting and trying his way, but I think it's just Raiders line up, run Josh Jacobs down New England's throat, and throw the ball to Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm just going to take the team that's playing better right now, and I think that's the Raiders. Give me the Raiders. Next up, NFC West showdown, Arizona at the Rams. Rams have had kind of a tough schedule, actually, to start. You know, games against San Francisco, Philadelphia. They get a little bit easier game here against Arizona. Arizona has been feisty at times in halves, you know, and played pretty well. But I think their defense is really going to struggle against Nakua and Kupp. And I think this is another game for, you know, them to get used to what their full wide receiver array is with Kupp and Nakua and Atwell and Higbee. They're going to get back to it. And I think I look forward to Matthew Stafford having a really big game in this one. So give me the Rams at home big over the Cardinals. Next up, Philadelphia travels to MetLife to face the Jets. Jets got another win with Zach Wilson, a quarterback, against a bad Denver defense, a bad team in general last week, and they're in for a headache when it comes to the Eagles. The Eagles' secondary has not been playing phenomenal, but their front seven still can create pressure and cause problems. I love to see Breece Hall running the football again against Denver, and I think did really well. But I just don't think you can take Zach Wilson versus Jalen Hurts. It's just quite a disparity in quarterback play. I think the Eagles continue to roll, and they beat the Jets 30-17. Last game of the week. Giants at Buffalo. Buffalo looking to bounce back, and they get a nice, tasty snack in the New York Giants. Giants fans, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm sure many of you who are pretty outspoken would tell me that, you know, we didn't want to sign Daniel Jones, and I'm sure you didn't. And I'm not sure why you did. Why would you sign Daniel Jones and not Saquon? You didn't have to sign Saquon to this huge, long extension, but I know it's win now mode, and if you're a new head coach like Brian Dable, you want to go back off of your success from last year. But Daniel Jones is not the answer, and the offensive line is not the answer, and they just don't look good at all. It's unfortunate because I think there's some good players on defense: Kayvon Thibodeau, Leonard Williams, obviously Dexter Lawrence. But it's kind of a dumpster fire, and they're banged up against this game. They're going to get smoked in this game. Josh Allen's going to bounce back and have a field day. Buffalo by a million. All right, that's the episode for this week. We will be back on Tuesday to do our power rankings for what happens this week. Enjoy your week of football. Have a great weekend. Take care. And we'll talk to you soon.